Hi guys, welcome to day 16, and today we're going to be talking about sacrifice and purpose. So sacrifice is almost inevitable as regards the topic of purpose, right? And this is because purpose is specific, and so for something to be specific, there has to be some exclusions. And many people will not want to engage in this journey of purpose, not because they do not want to find meaning and all of that, but because of the fear of sacrifice, right? And it looks as if sacrifice is just a very bad or difficult thing to do, right? But today we're just going to be looking at what sacrifice really means and why it's necessary and why we shouldn't only view it from a bad or negative lens, right? Because sacrifice is not punishment, it is a requirement, it is alignment, right? And not necessarily a bad thing. Sacrifice is not primarily about pain, right? I would define sacrifice in three ways, and it goes like this, right? Sacrifice is about letting go in order for you to actually go. Sacrifice is about forfeiting in order for you to achieve, and then sacrifice is about removing in order for you to actually move, right? So sacrifice is not just abandoning bad things, right, in order to chase what you have to chase, but it's also about letting go of the good things that are no longer in alignment for where you are going or where you are at the moment, right? And so there's the paradox of sacrifice, right? And that is, it is more costly to live a life without sacrifice than to live a life with sacrifice. And so even if sacrifice in itself is costly, right, it's more costly to live a life without sacrifice. And that's the paradox of sacrifice, because at the moment it may seem very painful, it may seem very difficult, right? But in the long run, you find out that it's actually worth it, right? It's actually worth it to where you're going or what you want to achieve. So you now begin to imagine, no, if you hadn't let go of this thing or of these persons, right, how things would have been at the moment. And so you begin to appreciate the value of sacrifice. So sacrifice is not really appreciated at the moment, right? It's only appreciated when you have gotten to your destination. Sacrifice is necessary because you cannot do everything in order for you to do something specific, right? So if you have a goal, if you have a vision, right, that you're heading towards, it's not possible for you to engage in every other thing, right? Because you have a focus, and that focus has limits, it has boundaries. So it's not possible for you to want to be something or want to have something and yet you're just everywhere, right? And also it's not, you're just doing everything rather, right? Also it's not possible for you to get to somewhere if you are everywhere, right? So there has to be a limit, there has to be a boundary to the places that you find yourself in or the places that you engage in, right? Not necessarily because these places are bad or wrong, but to where you want to get to your destination, right? This route or these places will be ineffective, right, to your journey. And also you can't actually be friends with everyone if you actually want to influence everyone, right? What this means is that for you to have influence of any kind, right, the kind of people you kind of friends you keep, right, have to be people that are of similar values or similar standards, right? This is because if you begin to become friends with everyone, right, there's no boundary, there's no limit, and so you just allow any and everyone to enter into your circle, and that would dilute your focus and slow your progress, right? So sacrifice is like a filter. It gives it filters your destination, it filters your journey, right, and it also filters your focus. So it's like it's putting like a limit or a boundary, to your journey, so that you can actually be much more effective and efficient. So one other thing that people often struggle with this topic of sacrifice is that something may be bad for you but may not necessarily be bad for others, right? Something may be good for others but it's also bad for you. And so that also reminds us that purpose is specific and unique, right? And for everyone's journey, what determines whether something is good or bad is in respect to your purpose, right? So this thing itself may not be a bad thing, may not be a good thing, but then when you compare it to your purpose, when you compare it to your goals and your vision, you notice that this thing can actually slow you down or hinder you or distract you, then it is bad for you, right? Even though it's not a bad thing on its own, or it's not a bad thing to others, right? So when you're looking up to people, looking at people, right, you notice there are things they are doing, right? Doesn't mean that everything they are doing, when you apply it to yourself, it will be perfect and effective for you, right? So you need to understand also, right, there are things you have to sacrifice, not because they are bad things, but because they are not good for you, and so they are bad things to you. You have to understand that, and you have to accept it, so people often have, this question like, oh, everybody's doing it, why can't I do it also? Because it's bad for you, right? And you just need to understand that and align with it if you actually want to fulfill this purpose. So we see that initially, right, sacrifice may look like a loss, but in the long run, you notice that is actually a big win, right? So I hope we've been able to learn one or two about sacrifice today, and our perspective of sacrifice has been shifted from not just pain or suffering, but alignment, right? Alignment and progress. All right, see you tomorrow.